Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. Our conversation today centers around a topic that there's all sorts of information and even misinformation and questions and use cases and practical applications for. And we're talking about AI in the AV industry. You know, there's so many people that almost struggle to even identify and define what it means. I want to really spend our time today in our conversation breaking down not only what it means for the industry, but some of the practical and real world use cases and conversations that we can have as an industry to not only better serve our communities and our vendor partners and our channel partners, but ultimately the end user. And to have that conversation today, I brought on somebody who you may know from his incredible keynote at InfoComm this year. This is Joe Pham, Chairman and CEO of QSC LLC. Joe, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Hey, Ben, good to see you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, absolutely. Always a pleasure to get a chance to chat with you, and really love the opportunity to get to chat with you because you sort of have been kind of the de facto voice of the AV community when it comes to AI because you've been willing to have conversations that a lot of people aren't necessarily willing to have or don't have necessarily the same insider views on. But I want to ask, Joe, you know, I talked a little bit about making AI practical in our industry off the top. What are some of the practical use cases for leveraging AI in the AV industry primarily?
You know, there's many, and if you want to go with like sort of immediate use cases that's out there readily available today with the technologies that are in the industry that has really high value to the customer, I would say computer vision is probably the most obvious one, just given all of the video conferencing that we're doing. So you're talking about cameras that automatically switch and track and crop, so that someone on the far end of that meeting call feels like they're in the room. Just the way that if someone talks and I'm in the room, I would look there and I would look there. And so computer vision allows you to do that. That's an obvious one. I would say the second one that comes to mind, and these two are pretty obvious to me, is cloud-based remote monitoring and management. Right. I mean, cloud, the technology industry has been cloud first for a very, very long time, but AV has never been a cloud first industry. We've kind of gone from the device layer and then up to the edge and more cloud. But the ability for enterprises and other institutions to absolutely manage and monitor all of their assets, all of their AV assets within the broader IT stack is a very, very valuable thing. And that just allows easy upgrades and updates and control and managing and all these other highly valuable things that are only possible through cloud managed systems.
Well, Joe, I want to ask too, right? I mentioned a little bit kind of there is sort of a struggle to really define what AI means for our industry, right? There's a pretty clear distinction but between the machine learning and AI side of things and logic-based workflows, right? We've had things like if this, then that for a long time. What are some of the distinctions that you might draw for somebody who says, oh, we've had AI in the industry for 30 years? How would you respond to something like that?
Well, we haven't. So, that might be my first sort of polite response. But you actually stumbled on the distinction right there, because we are very used to a world of if this, then that. And that is deterministic programming. Right. And so that is something that a software developer, a coder, or a controls engineer have actually programmed into the system. It's very deterministic. AI is probabilistic, right? There is no formula for AI. It is a series. It's a neural network that has been trained on a bunch of data. And then now when input goes into that neural network, it's going through its algorithms, which are based on probability, statistics, calculus, minimizing certain functions. So it gives you an I don't want to say a more human-like answer, because humans are not deterministic, right? You ask two experts the same question, they're going to give you different answers, and even experts are wrong. And so that's where AI is a field that has been around for about 80 years. That's when the first paper came out in 1943 that gave us the indication of the possibility of what we call neural networks today. But obviously the data wasn't there, the compute wasn't there. So our world of the last 80 years really moved on the deterministic computing track that you and I are very familiar with. But in the last, I kind of think 2012 was a landmark year in terms of sort of really launching deep learning and neural networks. So in the last 14 years, the science has really taken off because of the data and the compute and algorithms. And so now it's making its way quickly into a lot of industries, and ours is no different. So if anyone says the AV industry has been using AI for 30 years, I don't believe them.
I tend to agree with you. And the natural question after that, Joe, is, we talk a lot about product life cycles and rate of replacement and things like that. Where are we in the life cycle of AI in the industry? I feel like I know the answer, but I got to ask you, where would you say we are in the life cycle, not only from a product and service offering standpoint, but from just the use case in our industry?
Oh, for our industry, I mean, we're first inning.
Oh, I knew it. I knew it.
Literally first inning, right? And I don't even think there are 2 outs in the inning yet. So literally, we're still getting our popcorn. We haven't made it to our seats yet, right? It's how early the game is. Because, and part of that is because this is so revolutionary, Ben. This is not like a 2-year, or 3-year, or 5-year trend, right? This changes literally everything, right? And so when you look at it from that time frame and you realize we're just at the beginning of the explosion, right? I mean, the chat GPT moment, and now we're getting computer vision and other elements of AI in the AV industry, and we're just scratching the surface, right? And so by the time we get to the 4th and 5th inning, I mean, our AV systems are going to be doing remarkable things in terms of elevating human experience and delivering better business outcomes. And, I can go on and on and on, but this is a long game for humanity. And it will be a long game for all industries, including ours.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I think the CEO of Alphabet said it's akin to the innovation of fire.
Yeah, electricity, I agree.
Which sounds like unbelievable hyperbole, but I sure, maybe it is slightly, right? But I think that we've almost been victim as an industry to be so I don't know, so scared of innovation to a point where we're almost afraid to touch technology with a 10-foot pole, even though we innovate technology. It's the grand irony. We're worlds behind industries like IT. We're worlds behind industries like security and surveillance. Obviously, there's a level of healthy respect there, but we as an industry sometimes struggle to evolve. Why would you say, let me maybe ask it this way. Why do you think that education gap between people like yourself and myself, who are super unbelievably enthused about the technology, and maybe people who are still so unbelievably ridiculous, they don't want to adopt it, right? Why does that gap exist? Is it just an education gap? I mean, what is it?
I think there's definitely an education gap, which and education can be filled. I mean, that's almost the easier gap to be filled. I think there's just a human psychology gap of, resistance to change, right? Resistance to change and fear of change. Because you read these headlines, AI is going to take all of our jobs. AI is, you read all of these very doomer type of headlines, and it's easy to buy into it, especially if there is an education gap. So I think the bigger challenge with many industries, and ours included, is the human psychology gap of resistance to change, fear of the unknown, and that uncertainty causes a lot of uncomfort. The knowledge gap can be closed as long as the individuals are willing to sort of put the time in for the knowledge gap. Yeah, but there is both knowledge and the psychology side, but I always feel like the human side is a much harder thing to crack.
I tend to agree, and what it interestingly has done is at the very least it's drummed up a lot of curiosity, right? But a lot of that curiosity lives at the end user and buyer and customer level, right? Mm-hmm. How can I incorporate new AI technologies not only into my technology, into my AV systems, but globally across my organization? I want to ask from the perspective of a customer and a buyer, what are some of the things that I should be asking for as I'm looking maybe to implement AI in my AV technologies, my conferencing technologies, connectivity, cybersecurity? What are some of the questions that I should be asking?
So let's start with what the goal is, right? So let's start with there, and I think we can get to the questions. If you're managing the AV systems within enterprises and other institutions, One of the things that you must be really, really frustrated with is the fact that, you can go to the trade show and see some new products, and you're very excited about it. You convince the organization to buy it, you put it in, and 3 years later, it's completely obsolete, right? So one of the goal, and it becomes increasingly important in this moment because the technology is accelerating so fast, is to me, the first and foremost goal is to really settle on an investment in a platform that grows with you and adapts over time and has the ability to bring in all the new technologies that get created, because we are in the explosion phase of AI technologies. We at QSC call that a full stack AV platform, right? And we're not the only ones that are delivering it, but that's what enterprises and end users need to start thinking about. I'm carrying a platform in my pocket, and so are you, right? And so are the over 7 billion people on the planet, right? This is a full stack consumer technology platform, but the AV industry doesn't have that, or historically doesn't have that. And that is going to be very, very challenging if enterprises are just chasing the latest features or specs and they put it in, and unless it's grounded in a platform that grows with the institution, that's going to get outdated in normally I would say in a few years, but with the explosion, with the accelerated, it can be outdated in 6 months, right? Before you even get your consumers trained on it. So that's where we're excited about the full AV platform that we're building.
Well, Joe, you mentioned full stack, right? Obviously, full stack is a term that's very familiar to a lot of developers, engineer types, maybe obviously to some end users as well. But I want to ask you to clarify and kind of define it a little bit more. When you mean it from an AV perspective, what are some of the characteristics that would help define maybe that full stack AV integration versus obviously maybe more the software behind the scenes full stack side of things?
Yeah. So let me describe the 3 pieces of it, and then the benefits from it, right? Maybe that will cover it. So the 3 pieces are what we call multimodal I/O. So these are the hardware devices that connect the platform to the real world. Because in AV, and this is one reason why AV is so exciting, we sit at the intersection of the digital world, which is very now AI based, and the analog world, which is real-time human experiences. Okay, so these are going to be the multimodal I/O is the first piece, which connects the digital platform to the real space. And this is, so examples of that. So sight and sound, right? So microphones, speakers, displays, cameras, all multimodal I/O. We also interact through to the platform through text and voice, right? So devices that incorporate text and voice. And then the other one is, and this one's really, really exciting because AV has to do something, okay? Which means we're talking about sensors and actuators, right? Sensors, because we have such a trove of data to bring in beyond just like audio, video. I'm talking about sensors for climate and temperature and all of these other sensors that we brought in. And then actuators, which is we want the intelligence to actually do something. Right. And the first phase is going to be control systems, which are traditional AV control systems, but we'll get a lot more creative and innovative with the actuation that we can actually make. Because, and again, I want to stress that because AV is a real-time human experience in the real world industry. We're not just living in a metaverse, right? A digital world. So multimodal I/O. Data is critical. So the second piece we labeled is intelligent data pipeline. So this is not only the architecture and the technology that routes data to all the correct places, such as other devices, other platforms, or to the cloud for training or inference of AI, but it's also intelligently routes it, because a lot of times you don't want to just transport the raw data. Right? There's going to be many applications where we want to do some engineering and some transformation of that data before we transport that. And that's where the intelligent data comes in. So it's more than just transport. And then the third piece is what we call the cognitive cloud, which is, where we can leverage the best of machine learning and AI to deliver better business outcomes, insights, connection, human experience, what the AV industry should be doing. So that system, architectured correctly and holistically, integrates hardware, software. It integrates data. It integrates devices, edge, and cloud. And then the benefits of doing this, and again, if when your viewers watch this, they should just look at their phone. Okay? The benefits of doing this is three things: easily upgradable and updatable. Right. So that takes us out of that world that horror world that I just described, which is like you put an AV system in and 6 months later it's outdated. Right. And so when it's easily updatable and upgradable, you're talking about where software is able to do that. Right. So the AV platform is very software centric. It is completely scalable and future ready. Right. And then again, that prevents the rip and replace. So scalable, where if you start building on a platform, you can build to your needs today, but allow you to grow into the future. And future ready means that the platform itself has been architectured to bring in the advances of AI that is happening at record pace, and at record levels of investment. I mean, we're talking hundreds of billions of dollars are being invested in this, as you know, right now. And then, so that is another really important part of the full stack AV platform. And when organizations and enterprises start down that route, then you don't have to know every answer, but you've at least built something that is going to be flexible and scalable and will adapt with change.
You know, Joe, as you're talking about this conversation about being full stack and working to best serve the end users, whether that's on the physical or the analog or the software side of things or the infrastructure side of things as well, it really reminds me a lot of my journey with QSC and Q-SYS, right? You and I come from similar musician forward backgrounds where for me, for years, QSC was a heck of a speaker manufacturer.
Yeah.
And if you would have told me 20 years ago that QSC and Q-SYS now would be leading the conversation on AI and connectivity and expanding beyond our industry, I probably would have laughed at you. But ironically enough, you know, some of the things you just talked about, whether it's kind of having scalability, foresight, conversations about the future, those are conversations that are not new to, I'll say Q-SYS, right? That's probably the best way to phrase it. But those aren't conversations that are new. You're not surprised by what's happened in the industry. How has QSC and Q-SYS as an organization been able to stay a little bit further ahead of some of those conversations and adapt to what it's needed to be at different times?
So we always, I mean, I said it before, I like the phrase, we always play the long game, right? We're very, it's for me for me personally, I get a lot more excited around transformation and long-term strategy. And when you have that mindset, and we have that mindset as an organization, we can always look ahead. So, I mean, we started developing Q-SYS in 2006. Okay, that's 18 years ago. 18 years ago. And and the original code name for Q-SYS was IntaVac, which was Integrated Video Audio Control. 18 years ago, Ben, we were not even a speaker. We were an amplifier company, right? We didn't even have any speaker business. I mean, a very, very tiny portion. So, but we wanted to build a next generation audio video control platform. Now, we expanded in the audio side, from amplifiers to speakers to signal processing. So when it first came out, the market viewed it as an audio processor, which is where we were, but it was always conceived as an audio video control platform. And we engineered it as an open platform, leveraging standard technology, standard protocols, leveraging standard compute. Okay, and that was a first for the industry. And so we've been able to build on that platform. And so in this moment, I mean, we've been investing in AI as a company for actually a number of years now, well before the ChatGPT moment, in terms of with computer vision and other areas that we have been spending a lot of time researching. But the platform the way that we engineer it allows ourselves to always build upon it as the technology world advances. And today is no different, right? We're building our AV, full stack AV platform to, again, leverage and incorporate all of the investments that the broader world is going to be putting into AI. So, I mean, I kind of describe it now as a platform that it's gone way beyond just leveraging standard compute. And now we're going to be a platform that leverages, you can call it standard intelligence, if you want to call it that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too. And, you even saw it at the last 5 or 6 Infocoms where our industry has expanded so far beyond what I would call the nuclear pro AV industry that it's almost hard to call our industry pro AV anymore because, hey, now we're almost essential to industries like security and healthcare and hospitality.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost very self-serving of us to call ourselves an AV industry. I'm being a little bit dramatic here, but it's so interesting to see how a lot of the innovations that you guys have helped brought have expanded firsthand our technologies into different industries. I want to ask, I don't want you to give away anything crazy on the roadmap, but assume you had a crystal ball in front of you. Where would you expect to see some of these applications for AI and AI technologies in the next, we'll say short term first, so maybe 5-ish years, and then I'll let you play the long game. Where are we going to be in 20 years?
Well, I mean, I outlined some of this in the Infocom keynote, right? I outlined 6 areas of AI that I expect, 6 areas in AV that I expect to see a lot of AI. Some of them are much more near term than others. So we went through video AI, audio AI is here, right? We're not the only company. There's a lot of companies in our industry that's building a lot of great AI for the audio signal, whether it's speech enhancement or speech isolation or direction of arrival for speech to get more context. So audio video AI is definitely not easy, but completely clear at this point in terms of the next wave of development. Controls AI, I don't think is that far away. Which is the ability now, because once you have all this data, this sort of whether it's video data or audio data, and there is standard intelligence that has been developed, right? Think of your large language model. Once you put standard intelligence behind that data that comes in as eyes and ears, it is not that much to take that intelligence and move it towards actuation in the real world, which is where controls will come in. So that one to me is pretty clear also. And then sort of further on the horizon, I think you're going to see, I mean, and this is not disclosing anything about Q-SYS strategy. I'm just sort of speaking generally with the industry. I think further on the horizon, you'll see a lot more digital twinning, a lot more Gen AI in terms of design. Certainly Gen AI is here today for digital signage. Data analytics is going to be a big area that a lot of folks are going to want, that we'll be investing in and researching in and building great solutions for. So that's sort of like what I see now. And when we do this a year from now, I'll give you a couple more categories. So they're like, Ben, did you see this that happened 6 months ago?
I'm going to hold you to that too. I'm going to mark it down. In a year from now, we're going to have a reset and recalibrate. And I'm sure everything that I said is going to be 100% wrong, and everything you said is going to be 100%.
Well, if we do it, when we do it a year now, let's do it in Texas. I'll come visit you.
See, that I can do. I can get that set up. We're happy to do that. Joe, I want to give you the last word here, right? If nothing else, there may be people watching who say, hey, this is all great, and I love hearing about the future of what's happening in the industry, but where can I start now? I want to give you the last word. What would you say to somebody who's asking, hey, how can I start rolling this technology out today, whether I'm a buyer, a client, or even a manufacturer or service provider?
Yeah, so I mean, I would say the 2 obvious ones is whatever your role is in the video, the computer vision AI, and the cloud monitoring management, because I think those are developed technologies that's readily available today. So that's if you're involved in designing a solution, speccing a solution, installing a solution. I think you should get really adept at that. And those are almost like no regret moves. The most important thing I think would be at the individual level is to if you're on zero, you got to get off of zero because that is the only that is truly the only losing position that is clear right now is staying on zero. But that means actually getting off of zero in an excited and engaged and passionate manner where you want to learn. There's so many resources for learning, whether it's, pick your favorite way to learn. And I would encourage people to learn, reach out, build a supportive network, and start this journey, because the net, if you are in our industry, is the AV industry. And you heard me at the keynote, how bullish I am with the AV industry. We are such in a prime position to be a relevant and impactful player in this new world of AI because of the technologies that we control, sight and sound, for human experience and connection, as well as the treasure trove of data that we have that would not only make our systems better, but other technology systems better in the world.
Well, Joe, that's a heck of a way to wrap up our conversation. I'll tell you, I appreciate you coming on the show today. Always great to have you on, and I appreciate the work that you're doing for the industry. And look, I got to tell you, from somebody who's been in the industry as well, it's incredible to have folks like you being willing to have these conversations and open up and allow people to ask questions, because it's the thing that's going to continue to push our industry forward. So a big thank you from me, and I know a massive thank you from our industry.
Ben, thank you for those kind words. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. I'm looking forward to doing it again.
Well, fantastic. Thank you, Joe, and thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe. Check us out next time on Pro AV Today.